All right, welcome everyone. Get ready to dive deep with us today into, well, the internet, basically.
Yeah, into that whole world of online reactions and, those like super quick hot takes.
Exactly. We're going to be looking at how people online are reacting to this recent news story that came out of Thailand.
About the arrest of those 8 people for making and selling pornography.
Yeah, so kind of a controversial topic, but what's really interesting to us is not just the news itself.
Right. We really want to see, how are people reacting to this?
Yeah, what are they saying online?
We're going to be looking specifically at the Our Thailand subreddit to see, what people are assuming about this whole thing and, what other connections are they making.
Yeah, it's almost like a window into like a very specific corner of the internet, right?
Totally. Should be interesting, for sure.
So just to get everyone up to speed.
Yeah, lay the groundwork here.
The Bangkok Post, they reported the arrest of 5 foreign guys.
And 3 Thai nationals, right?
Right.
They said it was Britain, Russia, Germany, Serbia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
And then the Thai nationals on top of that.
And the police over there, they're saying that all those videos that were produced...
They're being sold all over the world, right?
Yeah, worldwide distribution.
And their claim is that this was negatively impacting Thailand's image.
Which, kind of makes you think.
Right, how so?
But anyway, there's this one detail that I think really set off a lot of the discussion online.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
The police, they found some videos that apparently featured minors.
And this was in one of the suspects' possession.
On their personal devices.
So, yeah, that obviously, throws a whole other wrench into the whole situation.
Absolutely.
A whole other layer.
It definitely, adds a lot more layers to the whole conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's jump into that Reddit thread then.
See what people are saying.
The first thing that stood out to me was just how much speculation there was.
People love to speculate.
About who these people actually are.
Who got arrested?
There was all this talk about a specific...
Oh, a porn series?
Yeah, it's called TUK Patrol.
I've heard of that one.
And a lot of users seemed convinced that those guys who were arrested...
they're connected to this series somehow?
Yeah, maybe they're the producers or involved in it somehow.
Makes you wonder.
It's interesting, right?
It's everyone on Reddit turns into an armchair detective.
Yeah, a whole CSI episode is happening right there in the comments.
Poring over the article, the photos, everything.
And what I thought was kind of funny, a lot of people were surprised.
That it even took this long.
Yeah, why now?
For them to get caught.
You'd think if it was hurting Thailand's image, they would have...
taken care of it sooner.
Well, apparently TUK Patrol was pretty well known.
Right, for openly marketing their stuff.
They weren't exactly hiding, I guess.
So yeah, it does make you think about how law enforcement operates over there,
Yeah, it's almost like people think they might be kind of selective in how they do things.
I mean, it's just a perception, but it definitely comes up a lot in this thread.
Especially when people start talking about what are the actual laws around pornography in Thailand?
Which we'll definitely get into.
Oh yeah, we'll get to.
But first, let's talk about this one photo that was with the news article.
Oh, the one where all the guys are lined up?
Yeah, that one. People are going crazy over it.
Really? What about it?
Well, some users think that one of those guys in the top right corner
Oh, yeah.
might be part of Sin Bros.
Wait, isn't that another group that's known for making adult content?
Exactly.
Wow, so they're connecting all these dots, huh?
The internet detectives are on the case.
It's really amazing how quickly people online can mobilize and try to
figure everything out.
Yeah, it really shows the power of
selective intelligence or something.
Even if it's being used to, figure out who's making what kind of pornography.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting use of that collective power.
It's a little strange, isn't it?
But hey, that's the internet for you.
I guess so.
But what's even weirder? This internet sleuthing isn't just about those guys who just got arrested.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people in the thread are also talking about this other creator.
Someone else entirely?
Yeah, this guy who went by Nigel.
Nigel?
And he was the one behind a series called Asian Street Meat.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
It was pretty big a while back.
But wait, wasn't that long time ago?
Yeah, it's been over a decade since Nigel passed away, actually.
Wow, and people are still talking about him?
It seems like his content has reached legendary status.
Really? For what, shock value?
Maybe, but it's definitely interesting that it still holds this kind of appeal for certain communities online.
It makes you think, what makes certain types of content stick around for so long online?
Right. Is it notoriety? Is it, like you said, shock value?
Or maybe even just, nostalgia for a certain era of the internet.
Yeah, a throwback to simpler times.
I don't know if those were simpler times, though.
True, maybe not.
So anyway, going back to this current case,
The arrests and all that.
yeah, there have been a lot of,
Like reactions?
yeah, but more like humorous reactions.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Especially to that police statement about protecting Thailand's image.
Yeah, because, Thailand has this reputation for being a big destination for sex tourism.
Right. So for a lot of people, it's kind of ironic.
For the police to say that some videos are going to hurt their image.
Like a few videos are going to make a difference. Come on.
Exactly. And the Reddit thread is definitely not letting that go unnoticed.
Oh, yeah. People are having a field day with that.
I was reading some of the comments, and honestly, some of them had me laughing out loud.
I know, right? Some of them are pretty clever.
Especially the ones about Pattaya.
And all those other spots that are known for their red light districts.
People are definitely pointing out the,
The hypocrisy.
yeah, you could say that.
Or at least the contradiction there.
It's like they're using humor to highlight.
Like the absurdity of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just surface level jokes either.
Right. There are some people bringing up more serious concerns.
Oh, yeah. About the laws around pornography in Thailand and how they actually work.
Which is a really good point. I mean, this whole thing does raise a lot of questions.
Definitely. But we'll save that for later.
All right, tease them a little bit.
Make a way for part 2.
Keep them coming back for more.
Always leave them wanting more. That's the key.
It's all about the cliffhangers.
All right, see you in part 2.
We'll be here. Okay, so where were we?
We were about to dive into the legal side of things.
Right. Like, what are the laws in Thailand when it comes to all this?
Exactly, because it seems like there's a lot of confusion about that, even in the Reddit thread.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, wait, is porn legal there or not?
It's not that simple, is it?
Nope, not at all.
So I was reading through some of those comments, and one that really stood out to me.
Oh, tell me about it.
Someone pointed out that it's kind of weird how...
How they outlaw pornography.
Yeah, but then prostitution is, like, everywhere.
And seemingly, like, tolerated.
Right, like, it's kind of a contradiction, isn't it?
For sure. And I think that comment really highlights the,
Like, the weirdness of it all.
yeah, like how complicated and contradictory Thailand's approach to sex and sexuality can be.
It's not just black and white, that's for sure.
Definitely not.
And then you get into the specifics of the laws themselves.
And it gets even more confusing.
I know, right? A lot of people in the thread were really hung up on that.
The fact that, like, possessing porn might be fine.
But sharing it online is, like, a big no-no.
Yeah, they're like, how does that even make sense?
It's hard to wrap your head around,
Totally. And it kind of shows you how the laws are still trying to catch up.
with the internet.
Yeah, because, like, something that's illegal in one country.
Could be totally accessible from another.
Exactly. And then how do you even enforce that, right?
That's a tough one.
But then there's another thing that people are pointing out, which is...
Like, how these laws are actually being applied.
Right, because there's this feeling that foreigners...
Like, they get targeted more.
than Thai citizens who might be doing the same things.
Yeah, and that definitely feeds into a bigger conversation about...
Like power dynamics and biases.
Exactly, like, are certain groups being treated unfairly?
Or held to a different standard.
It's a valid question to ask, especially when you see these kinds of cases popping up.
It definitely makes you think about who these laws are actually meant to protect.
And who they might be leaving vulnerable.
It's not as simple as just, oh, porn is bad, ban it.
There's a lot more to it than that.
There's so much more.
It's like those online discussions, even if they start with something like, gossip and speculation.
They can actually lead to some pretty important observations.
Yeah, they can uncover these underlying social tensions that we might not talk about otherwise.
It's like holding up a mirror to society and being like, hey, look at this.
See what's really going on beneath the surface?
I like that analogy, the mirror to society.
It's kind of what we're doing here with this deep dive, right?
Trying to reflect what's happening online and see what we can learn from it.
Absolutely. So I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We talked about the speculation, the humor, the legal stuff.
Even a bit of nostalgia for the good old days of Asian street meat.
What else is there to talk about, really?
Well, I don't know about you, but one thing that stuck with me was how...
Yeah, tell me.
Like how casually some people were talking about these adult content creators.
Yeah, it's almost like they've become these cult figures.
Even though what they're doing is...
Controversial, to say the least.
Right, but it's like they have this weird respect for them.
Especially for someone like Nigel.
Yeah, even after all these years.
It just shows you how the internet can create these whole subcultures.
With their own rules and their own heroes and villains.
It's fascinating, really.
It makes you wonder, like, what's going to happen to all these subcultures in the future?
Right, like as technology keeps changing and attitudes evolve.
What will the internet look like in another 10 years?
Will those old subcultures disappear?
Or will they just transform into something new?
It's hard to say, but I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch.
I bet it will.
So what do you think? Is this a good place to wrap up part 2?
Yeah, let's leave them on a bit of a cliffhanger,
Always got to keep them wanting more.
Back for part 3,
All right, so we've made it to part 3,
the final chapter of our deep dive.
where we try to, like, tie it all together, right?
Yeah, make sense of all the chaos.
The chaos of the internet.
So looking back at everything we've talked about, like what are some of the main things that we learned?
About how people are reacting to these arrests in Thailand.
Yeah, what really stuck out to you?
I think the main thing is just how many different emotions are swirling around this whole thing.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, this is bad or these people are terrible.
There's a lot more going on, you know?
You got the speculation, the humor, the nostalgia, even some genuine concern mixed in there.
And the Reddit thread really shows how people are wrestling with all those different feelings at the same time.
It's a lot to process, for sure.
So we saw those internet sleuths trying to, like, figure out who these guys are.
And connect them to stuff like TUK Patrol.
Right, which is fascinating in its own right.
But then you have people reminiscing about Asian street meat,
And Nigel, like, he's some kind of legend.
even though it's been over a decade since he passed away.
It's like the internet has created this weird time capsule.
Preserving these moments and these figures that might have been forgotten otherwise.
And that brings up all sorts of questions about, like, what makes certain content stick around online for so long.
Why does something like Asian street meat still resonate with people today?
It's a good question, one that we could probably spend a whole other deep dive exploring.
Yeah, maybe another time.
But for now, I think we need to talk about the more serious stuff.
Like the police saying these videos are hurting Thailand's image.
Right, because a lot of people found that pretty ironic.
Especially given Thailand's reputation for sex tourism.
Yeah, it's like, come on, are you serious?
And you can really see that irony in a lot of the comments on Reddit.
People are pointing out the hypocrisy, the contradictions.
Using humor to highlight the absurdity of it all.
Which is a classic internet move, right?
Absolutely. But it's not all just jokes and memes.
There are some legitimate concerns being raised about the laws in Thailand.
And how they actually work in practice.
Because on the one hand, you have people saying, well, possessing porn might not even be illegal.
But then sharing it online is a huge no-no.
And people are like, how does that make any sense?
That's confusing, right?
And then there's the whole issue of selective enforcement.
Where it seems like foreigners might be targeted more than Thai citizens.
Even if they're doing the same things.
Which again raises those questions about bias and fairness.
And who these laws are actually meant to protect.
It's a complicated situation, to say the least.
So yeah, I think we've gone pretty far beyond just talking about the news story itself.
We've explored those internet subcultures, the legal contradictions, the cultural perceptions.
It's amazing how much this one case has revealed about, like, modern society as a whole.
From personal freedoms to technology and sexuality.
It's like we've peeled back the layers of the onion.
Found a whole lot more than we expected.
Exactly, and I think that's the beauty of these online discussions.
They can start with something seemingly simple.
But then they can lead us down these unexpected paths.
And force us to confront these bigger questions that we might not have considered otherwise.
So as we wrap things up here, we want to leave you with something to think about.
What assumptions, if any, did this whole discussion challenge for you?
Did it make you think differently about Thailand, the porn industry, or even your own views on sex and the law?
We encourage you to keep exploring these questions.
To keep engaging with different perspectives.
And to use the internet for all its flaws.
As a tool for understanding the complexities of the world around us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll be back soon with another one.
So until then, keep those minds engaged and keep exploring.